Good morning, I am Didier Coalac. I live in France. In this country there are cathedrals that were built in the Middle Ages, 800 years ago. In France you can see the castles of kings like Chambord or Versailles and many others. These monuments are precious testimonies of bygone eras. Cathedrals were places where people gathered to attend the mass ceremony. People from the nobility lived in castles. But in addition to their utilitarian function, these monuments carried a secret code which conveys great secrets of civilization. On my channel, I will explain to you how the great French monuments conceal messages that have been hidden in different ways. This concerns antediluvian civilizations and extraterrestrials. I know this statement may seem surprising, but more than 30 years of diligent work on architecture tells me that I am right. The kings of France were custodians of great secrets that have been passed down for millennia. I have traveled a lot throughout France to visit and photograph monuments. I have realized that architectural decoration has a coding that can be understood with intelligence, logic, deduction. The process of understanding goes through words that were used in Old French. The shapes carved in stones are often the same from one place to another, with variations. They suggest wordplay. Let's quickly look at some of the themes that I will develop in the upcoming videos. The Greek philosopher Plato wrote about the island of Atlantis, which is said to have existed in the Atlantic Ocean. This land supposedly supported a flourishing civilization before disappearing in a great natural disaster. The medium Edgar Cayce confirmed that the Atlantean civilization had indeed existed and that these people had developed high-tech machines. Atlantis supposedly disappeared at the bottom of the ocean 12,000 years ago following an abusive use of the machines. In architecture, there are statues called Atlantis. They are very muscular men who carry a load. These statues refer to the island of Atlantis, as indicated by a play on words in French and also in English. In French, these characters are called Atlantes, and the inhabitants of the island of Atlantis are called Atlantes. It is the same word. In English, the Atlantis, it is pronounced the same way as the island Atlantis. The Versailles estate is an extraordinary ensemble. In the gardens, the ponds, the water jets, the vases, the statues enchant the soul. For those who know how to discover it, messages are hidden about the end of the old world, the end of Atlantis, about cosmic cycles, about the coming arrival of the age of Aquarius. In the rooms there is not a square meter that is not decorated with marble, gilding, painting. What a luxury! The Hall of Mirrors is a masterpiece of the castle. It is a long, luxurious room with a beautiful ceiling painted by Charles Lebrun. 24 Atlanteans, or Atlantis, are painted on the ceiling. Here, King Louis XIV is dressed in antique costume. He has in his hand the trident of Neptune, who is the god of Atlantis. On the sides, there are two Atlanteans, who are dressed only in a sheet. In Old French, a sheet was called un drap. and this word also meant a shroud. They are dressed in a shroud because the end of Atlantis is near. We can also imagine that these Atlanteans have just come out of their tombs to reveal to us the secret of Atlantis. Here we can see Louis XIV receiving the caduceus from the god Hermes. It is a nod to Hermes Trismegistus, the 3 times great, who is the one who brought esotericism, Hermeticism to humanity. The king is therefore presented as an initiate. On the sides, 2 Atlanteans are there. As we often see, they have placed a hand on their head to protect themselves from the catastrophe that will come from the sky. The interior of Albi Cathedral is a truly precious jewel. The pulpit is supported by 2 Atlanteans. They carry a large cloth, a sheet which hides something like a screen. Their faces express suffering because they know that Atlantis is going to disappear. The organ is supported by 2 Atlanteans. They too are waiting for the great catastrophe. So they put a hand on their head and do not look happy. We did not see many happy characters in the monuments, but many sad and suffering faces. These are people of the old humanity who see the great final catastrophe coming. They are in shock, as if they had just learned very bad news. The 100 euro note is very interesting. It shows an ancient door guarded by 2 Atlanteans. It is a door to the secrets of Atlantis. The euro notes show the European architecture of past centuries. They also express the ancient coding of architecture. In our time, the secret code still exists. There are people who know. The major works carried out by François Mitterrand are coded. The former president of the French Republic was an initiate. In the gardens of Versailles, there is this sculpted group of Neptune, with his companion Amphitrite. Neptune was the god of waters in Atlantis. Behind the divine couple, we can see the head of a monster carried by a wave. It is a symbol of the destructive action of Neptune. His Greek name is Poseidon, the one who creates earthquakes. He holds his attribute, the trident, in a strange way, as if the object were a weapon, as if the god was going to strike with the end of the handle, or as if he was going to skewer a fish in the water. This means that the god of Atlantis is going to destroy his world. This small statue exhibited at the Louvre Museum was sculpted by one of the creators of the Versailles group, Lambert Sigisbert Adam. The same idea is expressed. Neptune has overthrown his son, Triton, this one used to announce the arrival of his father's chariot. But the god of the waters no longer wants to play his role. He turns against his world. Still in the Louvre Museum, we can see this statue that was previously in the garden of Marly. There was a castle of Louis XIV there. Neptune is going to kill a horse, while he is the creator of the horse. Yet he should be the protector of this animal. The designers of the code therefore draw our attention to the end of Atlantis. The Louvre Museum is housed in the largest castle in Europe, which was a palace for the kings and emperors of France. We can see at the top of the facades faces of the Greek god Pan. He looks very frightened, but why? These faces are a reference to an ancient aphorism that stated, "The great Pan is dead." We are now in front of the Paris City Hall. At the very top of the roof, we can see Pan's heads. They are like masks stuck on a parchment. This means that there is secret documentation about the ancient world. Knowledge is hidden by the political power. It will be revealed in the future. There is an architectural element that was often used in the construction of monuments, the console. It is a supporting stone. It was often carved in the shape of a sheet of paper, with the scrolls at the top and bottom. We find many of them on large houses, built a little over a century ago. The consoles are covered with plant leaves. Thus, we are told that what is written is not apparent, it is hidden. Vaux-le-Vicomte Castle. The vase is an object that was often used in the decoration of castles. Here we can see how the handles are sheets of paper with scrolls. This means that the French royalty had ancient documents that are hidden in vases. Symbolically, it is a repository of knowledge or even artifacts. This is the tomb of Napoleon I at the Invalides. The lid is shaped like a sheet of paper with two scrolls. This means that the emperor was a great initiate, aware of this secret. He may have belonged to Freemasonry or another ultra-secret society. François I was king of France during the Renaissance. He loved to build castles, the most famous of which was Chambord. The castles of this king draw a wide angle on the map, with monuments built exactly where they were needed. This is surprising since precise maps did not exist at that time. The unit of measurement used was the kilometer, a length that was not yet officially recognized. So how did the builders create alignments? We discover many lion man faces in castles and cathedrals. They are found everywhere in France and even in other countries. They were sculpted and drawn from the 16th century to the 19th century. Why such insistence? What do they mean? Lion men recall the half-man, half-lion deities of ancient mythologies. In Nubia, Aphrodite was known. In Egypt, there was the goddess Sekhmet, a woman with the head of a lioness, and also the lion-headed prince Isis, the god of war. In India, Narasimha was an avatar of Vishnu. In Mesopotamia, several leonine, supernatural creatures were known: Yugalu, Lama, Lamashtu. Sometimes the lion men of architecture have an expression of suffering on their faces. This is because the civilizations of the ancient world disappeared in a great flood at the beginning of the Age of Leo. This happened about 12,000 years ago. We can see lion man mask placed on sheet of paper, elements that are also parchments. This means that there is secret documentation regarding these creatures. In Old French, to suffer was souffrir, and this verb also meant to wait. The lion men await the hour of revelation, the time of the apocalypse. There may have been leonine creatures who came from space, who walked on earth among men. On some cathedrals, there are statues of humanoids. We usually think that these characters are demons, but they can also be considered as aliens. At the Cathedral of Bourges, these strange beings have been waiting for us for centuries. They are dressed. They have big mouths and long fingers. At Strasbourg Cathedral, here is a gargoyle which is used to evacuate rainwater. The creature is almost human. When you rotate it 90 degrees, it ends up sitting cross-legged and speaks to heaven, where he perhaps comes from. In the gardens of Versailles, there is this statue of a human with a lizard's head. He is a reptilian. Here, in the same category as the Château de Pierrefonds. At the Château de Chenonceau, there are plates on the ceiling of the grand staircase, with its birds with outstretched wings, and its star in the center. This one is a flying saucer. At the Château de Châteaudun, we find this disc-shaped UFO, topped with a dome. The birds, symbol of flight, are above. In the studiolo of François I, in the Château de Blois, there are many interesting small sculptures. Here we see a ship taking off, emitting flames. Here is a sample of decorative details, numbers 2, 4, and 6. Birds are perched on saucers to show that the saucer is flying. In Old French, the containers were called vaisseaux. This word also meant ship, boat, as in the modern expression vaisseau spatial. In English, spacecraft. Numbers 1 and 5. Let us look at these cherubs, which are in dishes or vaisseaux. These objects symbolize the aircraft of the angels. Number 3. This angel has a tree stump on his head. The explanation is the Old French word soche, which meant stump, and the coche was a mythical flying chariot. It is a play on words that gives the explanation of the drawing, in order to indicate the angel's aircraft. In the code of architecture, angels are not immaterial spirits, but physical aliens. Above the stump is a large dish, un vaisseau, synonym of boat. The fabric corresponds to the old word volant, in the sense of unfixed piece of fabric. In French, if we say that something is volant, it is because it is flying. The architectural ornamentation presents enigmatic pictures, puzzles that must be understood using the appropriate vocabulary. Why are these teenagers with a vase? Why do they have hard faces? What is in the vase? Why are they wearing a garland of leaves? Why are they sitting on cornucopias? There are answers to these questions. On the map of France, there are alignments of monuments that have been established to indicate certain secret places, certain sites. It will be necessary to probe with a radar, then dig to discover what has been buried in the subsoil. Extraterrestrial artifacts, or those from Atlantis, could be found. When it is possible, it will be necessary to verify if the hypothesis is confirmed. With the evidence I have, I believe that the secret code of architecture has been put in place over centuries and even millennia, to be revealed at the beginning of the astrological age of Aquarius. This is our time. We are coming to the end of a civilization and the beginning of a new world. Objects proving the existence of Atlantis will be discovered. Extraterrestrial will manifest themselves publicly on Earth. Thank you for your attention. After this general presentation, I will create other videos to explain in detail what I have discovered. I hope you will like my channel to encourage me. See you soon, friends.